It's another day. It's another getting on to the Sussex border walk. And this time I'm actually on the Sussex border path. By last time I was in Sheet, a tiny village up on the Hampshire side of the Sussex border. And today I'm a little further north and I'm just getting onto the Sussex border path back in Sussex. And this is going to take me, it's a bit of a monotonous route for the video. It's a very beautiful walk in the countryside, but there's no villages or anything like that. It is purely a walk through woodland and up to the hangar and to Rake, which is a village, I think, if I'm right, just over again onto the Hampshire border. So I'm very much on the border on this particular one. And this is what the walk is really about, trying to stay as close to the border as possible, but not necessarily on the border all the time. If there are places to go and have a look at either side, then as you know, I do that as much as I can. But sometimes the walk just takes you in some beautiful landscape through, at the moment here it looks like a little bit of pine, some silver birch by the looks of things, some fir trees and all sorts of bits and bobs. So we're just going to see what there is on this one. So I hope you'll join me for the entire stroll. It's February as I record this. I think we've had so far one of the most mildest winters I've known for a long time. It probably means that actually winter is coming a little later, probably towards the end of February and beginning of March, and then I predict that we'll have a little mini heat wave. Seems to be what's going on at the moment. Now, I don't put that down to global warming. I'm not one of those believers in man-made global warming, but that's a debate for another day. I just think that we have, over millennia, different atmospheric pressures and, I don't know, different things going on in the world and with the sun that just changes the weather anyway. It means that it's been quite wet and underfoot has been quite damp, but it's nice. We've had a few dryish days, so it's good to get out in the forest with the fresh air, the trees pumping out beautiful oxygen, what we all need to breathe, of course. It's interesting, I think they're surrounded here with a few rhododendrons as well as all the other stuff, so I don't know whether this was close to an estate, but I believe this will take me through the hangars up to Rake. And we are going up a bit of a rise with a sort of valley down below me. These are the Hampshire Sussex border hills. There's a little sign here that says tunnel vision, and then there's all these orange posts sticking up. I think this little sequence of this path is being used by scrambling motorbikes. I don't know, what do you call it, motocross? Is that what it is? I'm not really into sports and things, as you probably know. And they look like they go scrambling up and down the hills here, down these little pathways. So it must be great fun if that's the sport that you enjoy. They're probably incredibly dangerous. I'm very pleased that they're not here today. Now, Julia and I made a video at the other end up towards the Rake side during the very beginning of the lockdown back in March 2020, just after, or the day before I think, we were locked down, and we were going to stay up for a few days and follow some of these paths, but we had to come back because of the lockdown. So this is the first time I've been back in this area for the 2 years. So it's going to be interesting to see and remind myself of some of that. I'll link to the video that we did at Rake. But yeah, pleased to have all of this without the motorbikes to myself. Well, for the more astute of you, you will realise that of course I've gone completely the wrong direction. I parked my van and I made the assumption, which was stupid, I didn't look at the map, which I do have with me on my phone, that this was the route. I thought something was just a bit not right because I thought I was going higher up. The track that I remember was at the bottom of the Rake and parallel to the A3. So I'm going to quickly return to the van and go and find the correct route. What a plonker. Actually, it's that way. Well, it adds a little extra fun to the route, doesn't it? It's so easy to do, to go wrong. There's two conjoining paths here. You've got the Serpent Trail, which is what I'd started on, and it was a simple mistake. I kind of realised something wasn't quite right because I was going up into the hangar higher when I knew from experience from the last trip that this was at the bottom and the hangar rises up here, and the old A3, the London Portsmouth Road, is parallel to me. I should have realised that, and then you end up at Rake. So there's the two paths, and then this one here now is in fact the Sussex border path, but with a bit of the Serpent Trail on it, so they are combined. So I imagine the Serpent Trail will pop off at some point and the border will just carry on. If I remember rightly, hangar, the word hangar is an old term for a hill with trees, and it gives the effect the trees are coming down the slope and on the bridge or on the top of the hill, I guess looking like they're hanging on for dear life. I don't know if that is the precise definition, and somebody somewhere with the internet immediately at hand can tap in and look it up, whereas of course I'm actually just walking here thinking of interesting things to say. As I remember it, when Julia and I were here 2 years ago, I think that in the, well, which now must be to my west, there was a lake, some sort of pond there that rings a bell when I looked at the map earlier to see the route. I don't know if I shall reach that or whether I'm just going to carry on along the path up to Rake. We parked at a pub, I remember, and the poor old pub was shut. It must have been shut for pretty much the 2 years because the hospitality industry, of course, as we know, was absolutely decimated during this time, thanks to these evil lockdowns, which, in my opinion, and what seems to be coming out, and I don't really want to make political points in this, did seem to be absolutely unnecessary and more lethal than the so-called pandemic itself. But let's not worry too much about that. Now there's another signpost here. This rings bells, and we do have, here we go, Sussex border path and the Serpent Trail up here. So let's continue, see where it takes us. Oh yeah, this is what I remember from the last time we were here. These long boundary banks all along here. A ditch that I'm now standing in, a little ditch here, and then the boundary bank coming along, so ditch and then bank, of which these trees are probably descendants of earlier trees that may well have been on there at a division of property. And I was thinking, actually, as I get back onto the path, don't want to lose the path, I was thinking, I wonder how much of this was available to commoners back in the day to collect the wood. It's quite ancient land. You can tell from all this holly trees, which tends to grow on the much older wild woodland. More of these banks all over the place. Fascinating history here of land ownership that most people walk past without ever fully understanding, and yet it's clearly visible, the ditch and the bank, and then it rises up there to the west. No, the east. That side is the east. Why do I always get those mixed up? East that way, west that way. West towards Hampshire, east into Sussex. I'm having one of those days. And here is a sign put up by English Nature. It says, "Welcome to the Rake Hangar, place of scientific interest." And it does actually say this is an ancient woodland. The trees and the area, it dates back to at least 1600, so we can call it ancient woodland. Beyond is the little lake that I was mentioning before. So I've reached the point that Julia and I arrived in the previous video, so that's nice to know I'm actually on the right track on this. Gosh, it's just one of these days. Lots of interesting things because of the ancient nature of it, and it is protected. There are some very rare mosses here, which is good to see. And then this board tells us about some of the birds and wildlife, the willow tit, marsh tit, and spotted woodpecker, which you can find up here in all these rather amazing trees. So yeah, I'm very impressed. It's lovely to be here, and at the moment nobody's here. And I was also thinking how it's only about 6 weeks out. We came in March 2020. It's now early February as I'm here, 2021. Did I say 2 years ago? Wait a minute, 2020, 2019, no, it's 2022. Can I start this video all over again? The brain is higgledy-piggledy. I think because I went wrong to start with. Oh dear. I know you're sitting there thinking, why am I watching this prune? Hey-ho. I think I need to hug a tree instead. I've just come a little off the path here, and you can see this is now going west, and I've got west correct in my head, west, and it sweeps up, and that is really the hangar. We're at the bottom of the hangar, and the hangar is here. All the wood that you can see, the woodland there, and it's holding on, and it goes right up to the top, and up the top there is the A3 trundling along. I was just taking a shot up the hangar, and suddenly I heard this trampling sound. I looked up, I couldn't get the camera up in time, as typical, and about 3 or 4 deer halfway up the hangar have just gone bounding, crashing through the undergrowth and the dry wood. They've gone now. I don't know if they're there watching me some 200 yards away, something like that, but absolutely amazing. And then all around me here, some of these ancient and old mosses, including the sphagnum moss, which is literally covering the bases of the trees, like, as Julia calls it, tree socks. Kettle is on. The kettle is boiling. I'm back at the van, as you saw. Actually, before I need to put the milk in, don't I? I'm just having one of those days where everything I do is arse about face. Excuse the language. But you get them sometimes. There we go. I prefer to put the milk in first, but other people may do it the other way. I don't like to burn the coffee. Anyway, so I didn't go all the way up to Rake and to the pub where we parked before, because it suddenly dawned on me I'm just covering old ground, and I can link to the video that we did before. You get to see lovely Julia and indeed little Joe in the pushchair, and that was, like, as I say, 2 years ago, so he was incredibly young. And I thought, well, I'll come back to the van. It's such a lovely day. It is a little chilly, but the air is still, and I don't mind that. And it's a bit of van life at the same time as the Sussex border walk, and it's time to have a cup of coffee. Not having chocolate biscuits at the moment because I'm reducing my sugar intake, and I forgot to bring a snack of nuts and things. But that's okay. I've got to go back and edit all this up, so I'll go and have lunch at home. I thought as a bit of a PS to the video, I wasn't quite sure how long I'd done, and I felt I was cheating you a little bit. So I've gone, as you saw, back to the van, and then I've taken the van to the top of the hangar. And Rake is just down this road, the A3. I think this is the A3. I've been saying it's the A3. I'm sure it is. Liss is just down that way a little bit, and I'm at the top of the hangar looking eastwards. I'm making sure I've got my east and west the correct way round now. And the view that goes back down here is just tremendous. It just goes on forever. And you do feel like you're on top of the world up here. There's some rather plush houses secreted behind hedges up here. And in their day, of course, you know, I don't know how old they are, but in their day of horses and carriages trundling along, it must have been absolutely fantastic to sort of rest up and have a look down here across this wonderful view, or visit relatives, or even indeed live in these great big houses. As in, it is probably as nice now, although you've got the busy road running in front of you. But the view is just utterly tremendous, and I just wanted to share that little bit with you. Well, I've just taken a little journey through Rake on the main road there, and I've come back now. I'm heading back down home towards Worthing, and I'm heading on the road that goes to Rogate first, and then you get back on the 272, which will take me on my way back westwards. Eastwards. I don't know what's the matter with me today. But I'm looking back up towards the hangar, which is just beyond here. So you do get a sense of that view I was talking about, that I was only a few minutes ago there, which is rather lovely. Of course, it's winter time, so all the trees are somewhat denuded, apart from things like the holly and the fir trees. But I can imagine in spring and summer it must look fantastic. Well, anyway, I wanted to share that view with you. So you've had a 360, more or less, look at the Rake hangar and what an exploration it was. So don't forget to follow, like and subscribe, and if you can support the channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me put diesel in the car as I go round the Sussex border path, or the walk that I'm doing, exploring the border, and of course other trips that I will take. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.